All right, we're back. Heads or Tails podcast. I got my guy Jake here with me. Welcome, dude.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me here. Man.
Yeah.
This is the building's cool. Downtown Whitehall's dope. So happy to be sitting here having a conversation with you guys today.
Yeah, dude. I'm super excited for this. And for you guys that have been tuning in, just knowing like Heads or Tails podcast, we're really trying to dive into both sides of program development, both the individual head side of the mindset of the individual athlete, how to develop that, what that looks like, but then the flip side of the overall program mentality. And I thought it'd be great to connect with Jake for a couple of different reasons. Not only his experience in college athletics, not only the work that he's doing in athletics, but also like it's kind of a full circle moment here where we were collaborating on some things probably 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And I was like, hey, man, what if we did a podcast? What if we did this thing and we could call it Heads or Tails and this? And you were like, look, man, I can't commit to that right now. But I remember you saying, go shoot your shot. And the other thing that you said was like, you know, I'm all about and encouraging you to be there when the gun smoke goes off.
Yep.
Like you don't know what's going to take place, but at least be there when the gun smoke goes off when, you know, to race. And that's been something I've replayed. So it's super cool to have you here, man.
Dude, absolutely, man. Yeah, because I think, it was about 2 years ago when we started. That's when we first got connected around like mentality, what I'm doing, what you're doing. It's like, how do we find synergies in it? And now I feel like every couple of weeks we get on a phone call and it's like uplifting for 45 minutes and we'll see you soon. So happy to be here and share a little bit more about what I do, my story, and how we came together.
Yeah, and I think I'm excited for you guys to hear this because when you think about people you want to be around, I think that's the thing that keeps us connected is like we have different personalities, but we're also rowing in the same direction. And like we're just go-getter. Like every time I talk to you, it's like, man, you shift a perspective or you challenge me in another way, or I'm just sensing like Jake's after it, man. And I love being around people like that. And I know you are the same way.
Dude, absolutely, man. It's been, and obviously we'll talk about it, but like my journey, I feel like it's just been a grind, like through and through, whether it's been playing in athletics, professionally and what I do now, but every single day, just like you have to wake up and go get it. So yeah, I mean, it's, I do feel like every time we talk, it's funny. I leave the call a little more motivated and feel good. So,
or we get that text back and forth, go crush it today, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
It's funny. Here's maybe a question to start us out, but like, do you find that there's people as you're interacting, as you're doing that they're like, dude, you're just crazy. Like there's something, what is up with you? Do you get that sometimes?
I'm fortunate. Like I call them my foxhole buddies. Like all my buddies, we're all kind of cut from the same cloth.
Yep.
So half of it is like, if you miss a morning workout, someone's texting you like, oh, you don't want to be great today, you know?
Sure.
So then you're like, I got to go get back after it.
Yeah.
But also just like people in my life who constantly push me professionally, personally, whatever it may be. So I'm fortunate in the sense that like my crazy people are my friends and the people around me. But no, I think that's the beauty of it too, is when you're on a mission and you're just putting positivity and good energy out there, like people reciprocate that. And so I found that in people along the way, people I've never known are just like, dude, I rock with the energy. Like, what's up? You know? And then now I became friends with people across my industry, working in sports and just in general that are just like, dude, like send me the books you're reading or what do you listen to from a podcast standpoint. So it's been cool that way.
That's cool. Was that something that you had to intentionally create? Like I imagine that some of them are probably from playing days. Some of them maybe even, high school buddies, college buddies. Some of them are just in network. Like, what did that look like? Was it just a collection of people over time? Like, how'd that all come about?
Yeah, so like football wise, I joke, like I think we were just like bonded through trauma. Like I was talking with one of my best friends the other day, and him and his wife are out on a van trip, and so they're like exploring the world, and he's they're dealing with some stuff with like some investment properties and those things, and like he was just telling me, like, this is hard. And we were laughing because we were like, this ain't, talking about the work, like this ain't as hard as 2-a-days or sitting through film or a 11 game season. Then you're playing the playoffs in December. So I jokingly say that because it just gives you perspective. But yeah, man, I think like, and the people I grew up with too, you get to experience life together and grow up together. And so over time you get, I always think like transparency is full circle. So as you grow up, people who want to be your friend and people who are stay connected, they're going to stay connected with you, you know, because everyone's got the phone in their pocket. You can call and text anybody in the next 5 minutes if you wanted.
Yeah.
It's a matter of who's a priority. Like your friends, if they're a priority to you, like you make them one and then you reach out to them. So I make sure I reach out to the people I want to stay in touch with.
Absolutely. So. Do you find that you guys are like similar, maybe not exact goals, but like you're pushing for, you said greatness, like be great, or you don't want to be great today. Do you feel like overall you guys are all like, whatever I'm pursuing, whatever I'm doing, I'm trying to be great? Like I know that I'm trying to be great, and I know he's trying to be great, and we're moving in that same direction.
1,000%. Like, and I think in my friend group's interesting too, because we all do different things, but we all come from the same type of background.
Yeah.
And so whether they're coaches achieving the highest level, or in business achieving the highest level, or my one buddy's a pharmacist, so being a pharmacist and being the number one pharmacist in CVS, you know, like however you want to shape it, like we're all competing in our own different realms, but cheering each other on in that process, keeping each other accountable.
Yeah. So. I love that. I think there has to be intentionality to it. Like you saying, reaching out to them, like there has to be a purposefulness to that. And I love that. And I like the fact that it's all different things. I think that we get lost so much of, if it's not going to get me recognition, or it's not going to be that sport, then like, I don't know if I could be great at it. And it's like, look, man, if it is a pharmacist, go be great at that. If it's a contractor, go be great at it. If it's a teacher, go be great at it. If it's the banker, go be great at it. Like whatever it is, go be great at it. Cause at the end of the day too, you're going to feel better about yourself. Right. You're going to look in the mirror and say, I'm proud of that cat. Like I'm proud of that. For dude, sure. You know? And I think that deep down we want that sense of peace. Yeah,
dude. I mean, I think about it too. Like, I think sometimes people, like when you get into a career, you're kind of just like, oh, this is my job. This is what I do. But even in the work I do now, like, and I'm selling technology and doing things, but like, I want to push my team or work, you know, be a positive contributor to my company and the people around me too. So like just the sports background and the want to be the best and want to like compete, like you take that into every aspect of your life and it carries with you. And so that's been fun to see as I grow up and get older too in my career.
Yeah. Where do you think that came from? Like obviously kid, you know, coming from a small town and you share a little bit of that, but where do you think that was just inherent in you? Do you think that it was through specific people? Like were there people along the way that really like, hey man, we're elevating, we're going to this next level, where you were like, holy cow, I didn't think I could do stuff like that?
Yeah, man. It's like, so my story, like I define my story as I look back. So I've been doing a lot of like journaling. So in my phone notes, I write down like whenever I feel compelled or like I feel an emotion or whatever, I write down what I'm thinking, feeling. It's just more like a conscious stream of thoughts.
Yeah.
And my life has really been defined by like moments in time and certain people in time giving me an opportunity and then making the most of it. So like my old man would always joke, like if someone makes the mistake of putting you in the starting lineup, just understand you're going to go on and do great things. Like don't make that mistake of giving this guy a chance. So, but I'm the youngest of four. So I got two older brothers. My sister's the oldest. My parents divorced when I was a little kid, but like I was fortunate in that my parents weren't like at ends. Like it was very much a family atmosphere, right? Both my parents have done well. My dad was a hospital administrator for 20 plus years. 2 master's degrees, a doctorate. My mom got her master's. She's a director of behavior services and social work. So like growing up, we've had all those opportunities that we wanted, like a good childhood, a good life and those things. But for me, what I found is like you get to face battles outside of maybe personal ones. And then as you get into your career. So like for me, my two older brothers, like great athletic careers and super good at what they were doing. So my whole life was just chasing them around and just like wanting to compete. Like my nickname was TA, which was tag along. Yeah. They'd be like, hey, tag along, you coming? TA, you coming?
Love it.
But like where I found it was like overcoming adversity every single time along the way through sports, which then inadvertently caused me in life to build a callus, if you will. Yeah. So like my earliest memory of that was when I was in like middle school. They had weight limits for football. I'm a big fella, right? Yeah. So like you had to be a certain weight to play at the certain age groups. Yep. So I was in 6th grade playing with 8th graders. Yeah. And I was still over the weight limit. So
trying to figure out your body and everything.
Yeah, dude. I'm like drinking lemonade thinking like life's sweet. And then, no pun intended, but like then next thing you know, I'm like ballooning up like, I gotta figure this out. But I say that to say like, I had to learn, okay, like if you want to play, you got to hit, I think it was like 225.
Yep.
And so then if I'm like 235, then it's like, oh, now I got to go work out. I got to go diet. I got to go take care of this. I got to go show up on Saturday, and I got to take my belt out of my pants, no pads, no undershirt, and make it by like a half a pound, right? Like, and then like those experiences started building up, and then you go in high school, and then my brothers have success. So then it's like any sort of athletic success I had was based off like, oh, it's because
through that lens.
Yeah. Of like, oh, your brothers were good. Oh, the last name. And then it wasn't until like the next moment in my life was like, I got pulled up to varsity as a freshman for the playoffs, and the starting tackle, all conference. Like I was joking with people, like, I don't know why they pulled me up. I'm just like, I'm fetching water bottles, you know? Right. So we go up to play Kingsford. This is like 2009, which makes me sound old. But so basically, long story short, we're in the midst of this like game that ends up going to overtime. We're losing, but we're like making a run to try to win this game. Starting tackle, all conference tackle, catches a cramp, goes down. Daugherty, you're in. So then I'm kind of like looking around like, hey, Daugherty's in. Like,
I was supposed to just have a good seat to the game, man.
Yeah, I'm like, where's Daugherty at? You know, I'm like, oh, I gotta go. So. And I go in and you know, I'm like shaking. The dude probably like threw me on the ground first play. But then like you start building confidence throughout the drive. And then that happens. And then the next moment for me was like my junior year playing basketball. My brother was a stud, and so forever it was like whenever I got pulled, it was like, oh, it's so-and-so's brother or the last name. But then me and all my friends, like we were just hoopers. Like we just liked playing together. We all grew up together playing outdoors all summer long at camps. And we ended up winning the district title the first time in like 20, 25 years. And then like those moments throughout my life essentially has caused me to just like dig deeper into self-belief and just be like, hey, listen, like odds are going to be stacked against you. Life's not fair. No one's coming to save you. How do we get out of this? And that's, so as I've progressed now in my professional career, I mean, you know how it goes. Like things don't shake out. Maybe the contract that you thought was going to close doesn't close, or the partner that you were going to work with doesn't work.
Thing you found a little bit of comfort in, it's like, oh, that's not there anymore. So
then you get comfortable being uncomfortable, and then you learn how to deal with it. So like that's in, I mean, obviously we could talk deeper into it, but personally that's been my story my whole life, has been fighting for a seat at the table. And maybe in some instances it's like, dude, you're already there, just chill out. But to me personally, I've never felt like the I've arrived or I've made it moment. I'm still chasing that.
Heck yeah, man. And I'm hearing too, correct me if I'm wrong, but like it's a skill. Like it was, you said callous, but even the skill of being in that moment and recognizing it for what it is, and then still pushing forward despite the fact of, there's probably times where you're like, I'd rather go puke in the garbage can. Like I'm nervous, like whatever it is. And I think so often people run from those things, and you've developed a skill of sitting in that and saying, all right, man, let's keep going. All right, man, let's see what it takes. All right, man, and over time, you've just continued to get more and more comfortable with that and even better at it.
Yeah, I give credit to my parents too. Like my parents always told me it's never as good and it's never as bad. So whatever you're doing, you might be over the moon thinking like, yep, this is great. I'm going to go do this. It's going to turn out exactly like I think it is in my head. And you go do it, and then it's a letdown. Or you be like, to your point, like, I'm nervous. I don't want to play in this game. I don't want to get pulled up to varsity, or I don't want to go play college football and, go play in front of 20,000 people on ESPN. And then you realize like, oh, that wasn't as bad. Like I played it up in my head. Like the boogeyman's not real,
For sure.
My dad would always say that too. And so, those kind of moments have just shaped me as a young man and as a professional now.
Did you, like you mentioned your parents. You mentioned, like, I would say even them helping you shape some of these experiences so that you don't look at it in a way that I would even say is diminishing, but more of a way that's enhancing who you are or enhancing where you're trying to go. Like, would that be accurate that they were those people? Did you have others?
Yeah, them. I mean, my brothers, my sister, like my sister being the oldest, like really helped raise us as kids too. Because my parents were working, right? And, we were a rowdy group. And so like those instances. And then, like I think for me, I was fortunate to just have positive people in my life, like all around. Like growing up, I never dealt with people shutting down dreams or any of those things. Like my parents, I remember like the running joke in our family is like, you let's say you go play a basketball game and you were like 0 for 10. You've airballed a free throw. You had 2 rebounds and like 6 turnovers. My parents would be like, you played an amazing floor game tonight. Like you were just hustling out there, and you're like, dude, I just played like
the
terrible.
Numbers don't show that.
Yeah.
The numbers don't show that.
That's like, I mean, those were the people I was around my whole life. So that's where I developed this, like, everything's going to be okay. Like glass half full optimism, like that mindset through my childhood. And then even playing college football, like the same thing. Like the group of guys I still talk to and my best friends to this day, we all share the same mindset of like, get through it. Life's tough. Like we're in this together in the foxhole, like getting it done.
Yeah, man. And I think even that your parents talking about the effort, right? The attitude. I know like so many parents out there, they played the sport that their kids are playing. You could potentially coach them up in the X's and O's and things like that. But understanding that a lot of times that role for you, I try to do this with my boys. It's like, it's all attitude and effort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like anybody, there's tons of other people that know the sport better than me, or even if they don't, it's more conducive for their development to hear it from somebody else and hear it from the coach that's aligning the entire team in a direction that they want to go.
Yep.
Not just my lane of, I want my kid to be better. You know what I mean? And I think that's big too. And even reinforcing, you can hear it when you talk too, that your parents valued you as you and like really enforced and like built that moral fiber in you. And it wasn't like, Jake, you're great because you scored last night or you did those things. And I think that's so vital, man.
Dude, I mean, it's like, I think letting kids be kids, right? So my brother's got 3 little kids and, we go to his basketball games and when the game finished, it's not about points, who won, who lost. Yeah. The first question my brother asks his son is like, did you have fun? He's like, yeah. He's like, great, let's go get some food. Like, that's it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think because like my message to people is when you like something, you're going to work harder at it.
Oh, yeah.
You enjoy doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And so when the moment it feels like a job or you have to do this, then it changes the whole perspective of why you're even playing a sport or doing what you do.
When you don't even know the unintentional pressure you're putting on them or you're putting on people by it's like the focus is only on those outcomes, right?
Yeah.
And outcomes absolutely matter. Like, we play sports, you want to win, we're competitive, we want to do those things. But at 6 years old, like, let's have fun. We were at a basketball game he's 7 now, was playing a game and there's a parent in the stand, and they're screaming at their kid who is also 7, like, put your hands up, and they're not throwing the ball to him, and she's like losing her mind. And and then it was like possession arrows. We're talking like 7, 8 year old, like, oh, that's the wrong, the possession. Like nobody's keeping track of possession arrows, like they're just having fun. And my son as 11, he's like, Dad, I just wanted to ask her, like, do you think your kid's having fun? And I'm like, yeah, man, let's just keep that to ourselves, But like kids are perceptive, man.
They get it. Man.
My
dad's 76, and like my dad even says it all the time. Is like adults treat kids like they don't know what's going on, but kids are so in tune with what's happening.
Yeah,
everything's transparent. Yeah. Like when they're having fun, when they're not. Like they pick up on how people act, how they do things, mannerisms.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Yeah, what do how do you think that's informed like your work now? Like share a little bit of what you're doing now. I'd love to, because you're still in athletics. Yep. You're really on the leading edge of some cool things. And I love hearing like your approach with a lot of that. Like talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I work for a company called Open Doors. So Open Doors, like easiest way to think about it is all the things that are happening with NIL. So name, image, likeness at the college landscape. We're in the middle of it, trying to help administrators, coaches, athletes, presidents, like universities, everybody make sense of, hey, how do we do this? How do we make sure we're being protected, compliant, and how do we do it well, right? Like it's a priority for us. We want to be good at it. We're working with competitive people, right?
Yeah.
And so in my role, I help sell and consult on our technology, specifically in the non-Division I space. So think Division II, III, NAI, NJCAA, and other institutions and universities. And so for me, like, the coolest part, so I was a D2 athlete, right? And so coming from that lens of like, I'm grateful to have a scholarship, play high level athletics, and understand that like the AD at a D2 school is going to be filling up popcorn or stepping in the scores table. Right. So it's not like as glitz and glamour as people think. And so now you throw in NIL and the transfer portal and all these different things in the mix, like people need help. Like people need good people to help good people win.
Yep.
And that's what essentially my job is every single day. So like I love it because I get to make a bigger impact on people across the United States. So, like earlier today, I'm on the phone with people from all like South Carolina, or we're flying out to California in a few weeks. So like just the impact that can be made across the United States on cross student athletes, programs, ADs, coaches, like that's the stuff that fires me up.
Yeah.
Like, just helping good people win, man. Like, make sense of this stuff.
I love that. And I see what you're doing too, of like, you're clarifying and quieting the noise. Yeah. There's so much noise around athletics. There's so many things that distract athletes. And as a former athlete, like, and even not more so now than ever. And like, you're providing a service within this unknown space to help clarify, help minimize that noise, like direct focus, but also help people, get paid, right? Like they're putting in work, they're doing hard things, like they have needs as well, right? Like, and I think that's great.
Dude, it's I love that point. Like I try to tell like people that all the time of, when I go to talk to classes, people are like, explain what you do. And I go like, I keep things simple and I help people solve problems. Mm-hmm. Like, that's my job every single day. Because if I heard like Wild West is like the coin term. So if I heard that and got a nickel every time, I'd be a millionaire, right? But in the reality of it, it's like the concept of NIL, name, image, likeness, is not a new concept. People have been doing endorsement deals forever. So I think it's just some rewiring happened at the college athletic space. But I mean, for me, it's cool though, because like being a D2 kid to then now helping D2 athletes and Division III, NAI and NJCAs realize and empower themselves to be like, oh, this isn't a D1 thing. Like, oh, I can go out there and go to my local community or regional or businesses in my state and say, hey, I'm open to helping you guys and furthering your brand. And it's just a really cool professional development opportunity and building entrepreneurship too.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is dope in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's the coolest part.
And I think for many of them, it's they're being paid to then cover the rest of their tuition. They're being paid to then be able to put gas in their car, to put groceries in the refrigerator. Like I think the outside perspective is like, oh, everything's taken care of for these guys. It's just above and beyond. Why should that happen? It's like for majority of college athletes, everything isn't taken care of. Yeah. Like they're paying for all these things, or parents are still paying for all these things. And they're trying to get an education and they have 2 full-time jobs essentially. Yeah. And is it something that they love? Absolutely. But that doesn't take away from the effort and energy and the work and intention that they're putting into this thing. Yeah.
Dude, it's, I was on a call the other day, and somebody I was talking to was saying like, oh, there's no chance my athletes are going to make 10s and 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm like, well, do you think they could make 500, maybe 1,000? Sure. All right, let's say a kid makes $1,000. They're probably the richest kid in their friend group. Right?
Yeah, right.
And so then you start to really like shape and reframe your mind of like, okay, NIL in scaling it back, like, okay, if a Division II athlete can make $1,000 or 500 or 250 or 100, it's like, okay, yeah, that could make significant impact on an athlete's life.
For sure.
So why not, know? And so that's been, and I came in about two years on the dot. My 2-year anniversary was in February, and like the growth that we've had in the space and just working with people and helping schools. I mean, it's dope, man. It's cool. Like people, to have ADs text me and be like, hey, can we do this? Or hey, what's your take on this? And they're like, we're almost in the trenches together working on stuff. Yeah. Best part of the job, no doubt.
Yeah. How do you think, like I'm going to try to connect the dots here, but as you're people coin it the Wild West, but it is an unknown space. Like there's a lot of creating that's happening. There's a lot of figuring it out and going into the unknown, which takes leaders, courageous people to step into that space. Yep. How is like self-belief played into that? Because like I would imagine even the creator of your organization and the owner, and then you stepping in and running your department or your team, there has to be an immense amount of like self-belief of why you're doing what you're doing, and the connection to why it matters, and then the belief even to just, what are we going to create? How are we going to connect the dots? How can we meet these people where they are and provide this service?
Dude, it's in our company, just incredible people. Like that's what keeps me coming back every single day. And our vision and mission statement as a company, every Monday we go through all of our core values and how do people achieve those core values every single week. And one of the ones that I love is build something great with people we care about. And so every day we have people that, like, I've never worked at a place where every single person is a top performer, every single person, right? And so you have to really bring your A game every day. And that's the cool part. So in a self-belief sense, like believing what we're doing as a company and then even as an individual, right? Every day believing hey, this is making a difference, or hey, these are the things that are helping our partners or helping our team or whatever. You have to bring that positive self-belief energy every day to it.
Yeah. Where do you, from your perspective, both like former college days, high school days, building that self-belief, but also even now how it's translated into your work life and just life in general, where do you think that self-belief begins? Yeah,
I think I almost, so I went and talked at a class the other day, and, I think sometimes when people share their career stories, and I'm going more on the professional tip here, but like people share their stories and they forget, like you almost like push down the trauma or push down like the bad times and you just highlight the good times.
Yeah.
So like,
because I was so great the whole time.
Right. You sit in front of a class and kudos to the panel I was sitting on, like every person on there shared true, authentic, real stories. Yeah. But I've sat there when I was in school and it was like, yep, I worked at this place and I got an internship and this internship led to this and this and this. And so you're thinking, cool, I'm going to graduate. I got a degree. I'm a student athlete. I'm going to go get a job because this guy got an internship, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
But what no one tells you is like, oh, I graduate December 17th and I wanted to go play professionally. And, it was like a one-day thought. And then like reality set in pretty quick of like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Sure. Like I got to go like get a career and develop.
Yeah.
And, and for me, it was like, okay, then what am I going to do? And I never had that conversation with myself. So through just like applying to jobs, getting told no, going to work jobs, leaving jobs because it just didn't work out, or because I left because I'm like, I don't love this. Like through all of those experiences, you basically learn like, okay, I have to have like the utmost belief in myself so I can portray that in my resume, in my work, in what I'm doing. Because like for me, playing football is second nature. Like I've been playing ball my whole life.
Sure.
So now when I go work at an organization, it's like, hey, put together a marketing plan, or hey, put together a sponsorship plan, or fundraising ideas or revenue generating ideas. You're like, I don't know if this is good. Like I've never done it. And so through that and just like that kind of constant of, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? Like over time you get prepared and you learn about it, but through a lot of failure is where self-belief begins. And for me at least.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I often say it's a choice.
Yep.
You have to choose, like, and it has to be rooted in reality. There has to be facts. There has to be like, hey, I'm not great at this thing. And I had to take it on the chin to learn that, in a coaching, a guy that coached you that like a couple of weeks ago, I was up at a university and he knew me back when I was a kid. Right. And to talk about like some of those bad times or those challenging times, he was like, I had never seen somebody lose their mind playing sports as much as you, right? And here I am, I talk in this mental, emotional space and mental toughness and trying to help kids develop this mindset. And it was like, yeah, man, like that's where I came from. Yeah. That's a part of the story. To your point, like it was the failures and the taking it on the chin and all those times to realize I don't want to be like that. Like I want to do something different. Yep. And it's through that development that actually informs the things that you do moving forward. Yep. You know what I mean? And you can never outperform your self-image. And so I always go back to what self-images am I choosing? And if I focus on my core values, how I want to show up, what I believe is true about myself that I keep putting to test, I keep refining, then I can walk around with some confidence, not arrogance, but some confidence of like, that marketing plan, like I don't know exactly X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do the best. And when somebody says, hey, we need to adjust it, it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's take that and let's roll. Yeah. You know what I mean? I hear the same thing for you.
I mean, that's, what's funny is like, that's the beauty of sports because like the unique part about it, and I think helps shape you as a professional is when you're playing a sport, especially in college, you spend 6 days of the week prepping for one day for 3 hours in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And you're either going to win or lose. Yep. Someone's going to walk away from that, a winner and a loser. Yeah. And then you have to live with that for another 6 days.
Yeah.
Whereas in the work world, okay, let's say I get on a meeting doesn't go well, or I misspell an email. It's like, I'm going to send another email. I'm going to be back tomorrow doing the same thing. Like, so I think just building up, as we talk about self-belief, like you have to really just be okay with like forgetting things and moving forward and just learning from them. And I think sports taught me that, at least, because when you go, I mean, your work, so to say, is displayed in front of, thousands of people on a national television, televised stage. Like I said, you're going to win or lose and everyone's going to know. So,
there's like some inherent pressure to that just is the nature of the beast. I think the other thing is that there's very few things in adult life that you can give deliberate practice to. And as adults, like you're kind of doing it. You talked about journaling, right? This reflection, this like deliberate, like, I'm going to adjust this thing, or here's my thoughts on this, or here's what I'm going through, and here's how I could do it. Like, not many people do that, but to your point, that's what sports can help you develop. You know what I mean? And that's why I think the other thing you highlighted too earlier was your friend group. Like that creates that feedback where there can be deliberate practice where, and I think that's so important that we miss sight on that can take place through sports.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Teaches you systems, right?
Yeah.
And so like what I've learned, and it took me a long time to learn it, is like, you just replace things for one another. So what I mean by that is like watching film. Yeah, you're just studying to be good at, playing football. Now in my personal life, it's like journaling, reading, professional development. Yeah. That's my watching film.
The research on this new thing, or the article of this, or what's the data on this, trying to make meaning of it. Absolutely.
1,000%, right? Yeah. And training table and weight room is getting your body right to go play in a game. Yeah. No different from working out or dieting or making sure you're putting the right things in your body as a professional to stay mentally sharp, to perform your job or do whatever you want to do. So I've learned, like, being an athlete, you learn systems, and now it's just plugging and playing different things for what you used to do. Yeah.
How do you think, with all of this, like, willpower plays into it?
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you, because I think that, I get this sense a lot of times when I'm working with athletes or I'm going in places, there's almost like this, it's already been decided for me. Like, I'm from this school, or I'm doing this thing. Like, there's no chance, And I know for me, and I ask this because for me, my story is not one that came from a high school and I go and I do great things in college. My story was actually face some adversity, responded in ways that were not enhancing, actually diminishing, and embrace this identity of I'm that piece of trash that can't do anything. You know what I mean? I had to pull myself out of that. It was a lot of like, it's already been determined for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just wonder, like, what are your thoughts? And I'm sure you probably hit times where it was like, you had to push through. There's willpower there. Like, I gotta just, people say grit, but I just got to keep going,
Yeah, dude. I think, like, understanding your why as a person is very important in life, just in general, whether you're playing a sport or whether you're in a profession or just as a person. Like, and for me, it's like, I'm more worried that I'm going to let the people that care about me down than anything. And that's what drives me. So, like, for me, my willpower or my fallback is like, okay, if I were to fail at what I'm doing now, I'm going to let these people down that are all looking at me like, hey, we support you, respect you, we want the best for you. And so for me, it's like, I can't let these people down. And that's what drives me every single day, whether it's my family, my friends, the people closest to me in my life. Like, I don't want to let anybody down. And so that's what, as we talk about willpower, and like, you don't get to like, your cards are dealt to you for sure, but how you play them is up to you.
For sure.
And so for me, like,
that's that self-belief and creativity.
Man. Like, there's plenty of ways to make change for $1. Like, you got to just, like, keep going, And so for me, that's like, when I got recruited to Ferris, like, the guy in front of me was an All-American center. I was a redshirt freshman. I was the only redshirt freshman, so I played every scout team rep, did every rep. So imagine, like, your first
taking it on the chin.
Yeah, your first day, you show up, you're 18, 19 years old, and the guy who was the defensive tackle coming in, like, awesome dude, he's a transfer from Kansas and a JUCO, and he's 24 or whatever.
Grown man.
He a grown man, and he's like tossing me, throwing me to the ground, and I got to get back up and do that again. 3 more times, come back, repeat, repeat. And then we go to scout team, and I spend 45 minutes just getting absolutely my butt kicked. And, like, through that, because I wanted to quit. So I don't know how many times I ever told this story, but my first week in doing 2-a-days at Ferris, I'm a redshirt freshman, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, this sucks, man. Like, I was coming off all conference, offense, defense, football. I signed the letter, wore the hat. This is cool. I'm a college football player.
Yeah.
And my first weekend, I just remember being like, this ain't it, man. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, football's not fun. This ain't fun for me. And I remember I called my mom and I was telling her about it. And I'm just like, I don't want to do this. This sucks. Like, I don't know why I ever convinced myself this was a good idea. And she was like, do this for me. Because I think we had like 3 days left of 2-a-days or something like that. She goes, you've already started. Just go 3 more days, but stop putting pressure on yourself. Go out there and just like have fun. Like whatever happens, happens. Like you're not going to play in a game this year, right? I'm like, no, I'm a redshirt. She goes, so what's it matter? Like just go, like just enjoy it. I'm like, all right. And it changed my life forever, man. I went out that next day. I went a one-on-one. Now I got a little bit of confidence. Now I go to scout team. And the dude like tripped, but I got him on one. And people are like, And so then I'm like, okay, maybe I'm meant to do this. And then you fast forward a year later. I'm a redshirt freshman. The guy who was a great mentor for me, he gets injured, unfortunately, and my number gets called again. And I come in and start every single game after that. Man. So like, if those things don't happen for me, then the rest of my life doesn't exist.
And what's crazy is that, again, you're in this situation where the temporary experience and emotions and the feelings, like they're not good, man. Yeah. It sucks, right? But you didn't make that permanent decision to give up on it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it reminds me of there's somebody I've ended up working with pretty closely over the last couple months. Played football at Air Force, and he said a phrase that has stuck in my mind. But he's like, I always approach things much like what you were talking about, these difficult things. And as I look at it and go, man, this is so hard, I'll pause and I'll say, what happens if I have fun at this? Yeah. Like, what does it look like to enjoy this? Yeah. And then I go and do it. And it's like, man, it's just that slight shift, right? Where you decide, I'm going to view it in this way. I'm going to keep moving forward. Yeah. That changed everything for you.
Dude, for sure. Like, for me, it was like, I'm going to get through it and I'm going to come out on the other side of this. So, like, temporary decisions last forever. So if I go quit Ferris and never end up playing football, I spend the rest of my life regretting a decision I made overnight because I was feeling some type of way. Right. So like, once again, another good one my parents told me is like, sleep on it. Whenever you feel away, like sleep on it, wake up in the morning, and that'll be your truest sense of clarity. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, if you can get through it and come out on the other side, it's going to be a learning lesson either way, good or bad. So why not see it through?
Yeah. 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 I mean, would you say that kind of was like a desert? Like, have you ever experienced those in athletics, that desert of like just trying to grind it out and keep going,
Yeah. So as we talk about like people that have changed my life, so people I want to mention specifically. So like a guy who I think of is a guy named Zach Wiersma. So like basically a brother of mine. He's the only reason I got a shot at getting recruited to Ferris. He was like, I was a BR kid. He was a BR kid. And was like, you got to take a look at my guy. I go to a camp, do okay. And they're like, hey, we're having all our big time recruits come tomorrow. Will you come back? And like, this is how ignorant I am. I'm like, do I have to like pay for it? Like what do I just come back? Like, and they're just like, dude, you're good. Like, just come back. You don't got to run the 40 or all that. You already did that. We just want to see you do one-on-one. So I'm like, all right, cool. Come back. And like, once again, fortunate, I had a good day. Like, you have good days and bad days. That was my day. And so then they were like, okay, like, we're going to offer you a scholarship. So I never go to football if Zach Wiersma doesn't give me that shot. Yeah. Fast forward, I'm at Ferris. I'm a red shirt. I get in that rut, the desert that you mentioned. I'm like, man, I'm not getting better. I'm not really taking school serious. Like, I'm like, man, this sucks. Like, I wasn't now enjoying football, but I wasn't like taking it seriously. Like I could never, I remember it specifically because I remember the feeling of being like, I'll never be able to play. Like I'll always be on the team. Sure. But like, I'll never be able to play, like starting a game or doing that. And one of my best friends to this day, who I still text with, Anthony D'Arcangelo, just hit me between the eyes as we talk about like those people. Yeah. He's like, I see something in you. Like, you can be great, but you got to stop being lazy, man. He goes, if you really want to be great, come work out with us. Yeah. And so I'm like, he goes, see, I can tell. Don't worry about it. You're good. And, and then I'm like, well, no, I want to. He's like, no, don't worry about it, man. And then I'm like, no. He's like, all right, this is what time we work out at. If you want to come, then come. We ended up, we had a core group of guys that lifted with each other every single day for 4 years straight. And if that doesn't happen,
Yeah.
I don't build up the strength, the mind, because we watch film at home. We put it on the TV. We're all eating good. We're all lifting. We're all staying in the same kind of mindset. That if, we call him Darko. If Darko doesn't do that for me, my life is never the same.
Man, do you, like, as you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, I want more people like you, right? So, you're still around, but how is that, like, do you seek more people like that in your life? Like, it's exciting now to have people like that in your life.
Yeah, I seek it, man. Like, I think when you play a sport, you're naturally drawn to like high performers. Yeah. So then you ask them like, what are you doing? What's the secret sauce? And what I've found is like, I've really grown towards like the people that have chips on their shoulder or like they got something to prove. So and even now in my professional career, like I really connect with people that want to be great or maybe are on the up and up or not stopping. That's why we connected. Yeah. That's why people in my personal or in my professional career, like I keep in touch with, like there's a guy I call probably once a week or like once every 2 weeks. Literally it's 20 minutes of, what have you done today? What kind of calls have you made? You got any big deals you're working on? Yep. Sounds good, man. Like, hey, I read this book, was thinking about you. Like, so I look for those people. I embrace those kind of people and I keep in touch with them. That's the biggest thing is you meet them. It's like a flash in the pan. This is cool. Yeah. Most people fall out of touch. Yeah. Me, I text, FaceTime.
It's like compelled, man. You're connected. Yeah, absolutely.
Have to.
I see that. Yeah. And I think that's part of what helps you keep going. You know what I mean? There's times where you're in that desert and the willpower is draining. Like you're taking, I think willpower is some internal force, but it's also you're eating right, you're sleeping right, you're doing all these things to bring more of who you are every single day. But you do get to times where you're like, I don't know if I could, like, this is tough. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you were actually, you came out to an event that, like, I put a bunch of money on the line. I connected with a bunch of people like, yeah, let's do this. This will be great for high school athletes. And 3 people showed up, right? Yeah. Like that was an epic failure. That was a huge failure, but also the encouragement afterwards, like, dude, man, just keep shooting your shot. Yeah. And in the fact of like, okay, what did I do? How did I execute on it? Was there things I could do better? And like, what are you going to do about it now? Yeah. And that's like having those people around to just keep moving you forward is critical.
Man, like show me anybody who's hit a home run on their first go, right? Yeah. And like, I always, as we talk about people and surround yourself with people, like it took me a long time to realize this. You really have to like cut negative people out of your life. Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to do. Like there's people maybe are your friends forever or family or whoever. Like I'm not saying me personally, but in general that are hard to cut out. You have to. Yeah. And so like, if to me, those are the people that are keeping you in the desert. Like if you go throw an event like that and people are like, what are you doing? Right. It's like, now you start thinking like, man, what am I doing?
Now I'm trying to show up how they want me to show up.
For sure.
Right. And then as soon as you start doing that, you lose all credibility with yourself and with everybody else. Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
Projecting, man. It's like, own problems projecting onto others. And that's why, like, for me, I only, like, if you're not filling my bucket in any sort of way, whether it's friends, family, business, money, whatever, like you name it, then I have no time for that. You know, like I have my friends. They're my best friends for my entire life. I love my family. I love the people I have close to me. I don't need more negative energy in my life or any negative energy in my life,
the distraction of it all.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, and I think you have to protect your focus. You have to protect your focus because if not, it's going to go every which way. And now you're evaluating your actions, the things you're doing, even your thoughts begin to come from other people and other influences, And yeah, man, for sure.
It's a whole, man. You could get sucked into it. And like, as we talk about self-belief, like you can start, like, what do they call it? Gaslighting, right? You can get gaslit into thinking like, maybe this isn't good. Maybe I am doing the wrong thing. Maybe I should leave this job and go do this.
Man, so like I spoke at a school earlier today, and a kid's like, yo, Mr. Dan, like, why do you do what you do? And it's literally that. Like I was a young kid. I made some stupid mistakes and I just embraced what people said about me. I embraced it. I took it as my identity. Like, I'm going nowhere. I remember a teacher telling me, like, don't even try college. You know what I mean? Like things like that. And it's no shame to them. they were approaching life from what they were, like they're not a bad person. Just that's something I remember, like they didn't see me in a way that was, hey, could he do? They saw me for everything that the mistakes I made and that I couldn't change, or I couldn't do something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, I told the kid, I was like, because I was that kid that embraced when I made bad decisions and I did some things like that. That was just my whole life. That was my future. That's everything you're going to be. You know what I mean? And so that's why I'm passionate about what I do to a large degree. And the reason why I'm so obsessed, you could say, or like so edgy and disciplined on like, look, man, I'm okay if you don't believe what I believe. I'm totally fine with that. You're not a bad person. But if you're saying things or you're trying to bring me down or you like, I don't have time for it. But I want the dude that says, hey man, you're lazy. Let's go do this. And you don't want to? Like, I want people like that because they see you and what you can do and they're going to call you to it and they're going to hold you accountable. Like, I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, dude. I think too, like your point about giving back, like giving back to me is so cool because like I feel like as we progress in life, it is our obligation to give back and teach what our pitfalls, mistakes were to the younger generation or the youth. Because like if we're not giving back that game of what we've learned, then what was the point of going through it?
For sure. Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. It's like that gift that absolutely.
I think like giving back, it's times, talent, and treasures. Like I also think it's like experiences. So when I go back and talk to schools and classes, and people are like, "Tell us about your career." Like I only talk about failures because I'm like, my highlights are a small percentage of what my actual career is and what happened to me along the way.
Yep.
So I try to I just paint that picture and try to let them know like I'm always here to mentor you and help because like it's my obligation to do that. Like I'm supposed to do that.
For sure. And I think like that's one of the things that you're passionate about too is like helping because you transit, from college into the work life. Navigating that shift of like the identity, like I'm not a football player anymore. What do I do? Some of that imposter syndrome and stuff like that. Like talk to us a little bit about that.
Dude, I'll never forget it. It was like, I want to say it was like 2018 where it really set into me. So like right after I graduated, I'm like every kid who plays college sports, I'm going to go be a coach. I want to coach.
Yeah.
I didn't want to coach. I didn't know what else to do. And I know enough about ball where I can go make a little bit of money, get my school paid for, whatever. So I moved out to Sioux City, Iowa on a whim and just great. I'm grateful for the people I met out there and those experiences. And I learned through that experience, like, hey, I don't really enjoy coaching, but I really enjoy like the business of sport. Like,
sure.
Yeah. We were doing a golf outing and like getting sponsorships and putting it together. And like, I almost spent I think someone out there made a joke about like you're spending more time in the golf outing than coaching. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm drawn to this. Right. And so, through that though, like when I left coaching and was like trying to get a job, I had but I had an experience where I thought I was going to get a job and it didn't work out.
Sure.
So I learned the first good lesson: never quit a job until you have a job, right?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I was didn't have a job. I was stocking shelves at a Dunham Sports, and it was kind of this humbling moment for me. It's like, dude, think about it. Like, you get your degree, you come off a great playing career. You're like a month ago, you were just playing in front of however many thousands on ESPN, about to go try to win a national title. And now I'm at a Dunham's stocking shelves and shoes and being like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
And then like not getting the job I thought I was going to get. That was like my first real taste of like, okay, like no one's coming to save me. Like it is just me here. Like when you're in school, there's a guide rail. There's guide rails. It's like bowling with bumpers. Yep. I got to go to study table. Here's my schedule. I'm going to class. I'm going to practice. I'm going to play this game. I come home. Season ends. I'm in the off season training. Like boom, boom, boom. The moment you graduate, it's like, well, you can do whatever you want. No one's there to tell you what to do.
Yeah. And
so I really fell deep into like anxiety and like, man, what am I going to do with my life? I don't know what I want to do. Like had no money. But I just remember sitting on a beach one day and just being like, it was up in northern Michigan somewhere. And I was like, all right, I got to figure this out, So I ended up deleting all my social media. and started like, that was the process for me of like pen to pad. What do I like doing? Pros and cons.
Yeah.
What kind of industry do I want to be in? What kind of skills do I have?
Yep.
And then fortunately for me, had the opportunity to go work at a place called the Wood County Board of Developmental Disabilities. So my brother works with people with developmental disabilities, and it was a Special Olympics internship. So that, and I believe in a lot of things. And so I really believe like that was my calling to like humble me and bring me back down to like, okay, this is the route of where you got to go. So yeah. And then even as I progressed throughout my career and getting my master's degree and all that stuff, like the whole time I'm thinking like, do I deserve to be here? Like,
sure.
What, am I smart enough to get a master's degree? Right?
Dude,
and then even my current job, when I left, I got out of universities, nonprofits, higher education, and now I'm in the private sector selling for a company in the cutting edge of NIL. And it's like, do I belong here?
Yeah, man.
It's kind of like, all right, like, yeah, I can sell some stuff, but these people are talking about all these different applications and this process and forecasting sales. Right. And I'm like, I got no idea. And so, but through that and kind of that feeling, you learn how to like dive deeper and work harder. Yep. So then you always fall back on your most preparedness. And so that's kind of me, my entire life. Every job I was like, am I ready to do this? Am I ready to do this? And it keeps going back to like when I was a kid playing sports and saying like, I'm nervous to play in this football game, but I got to go play in it. And it's the same thing I carry with me today as a grown man going in my career.
Absolutely. And like that self-belief, right? And being able to decide, because I know when I got my master's degree, it was there was a moment where I remember like seeing it. I was at home and going, are they going to take this away from me? Like, is this real? Yeah, and when I really was like, where's that coming from? And I'm a pretty reflective person. I've developed that skill. Yeah. And what it was I was still listening to the people 15 years prior going, oh man, you ain't going to do that. Don't even go to college. Yeah. You ain't for college. You know what I mean? I still was listening to them. You know what I mean? I'm sure that's part of like, man, could I, right? Like you're still consciously or subconsciously, you're listening to them, and you got to eradicate that. And it's funny because then, my wife posted on social media of like, hey, a picture with me and my boys that, I graduated with a master's degree, I graduated with a 4.0, and some of the teachers that dogged me are like, oh, way to go. We knew you would. What? Yeah, right? And so then it really puts you in perspective of going, why did I ever listen to them? Yeah. Right? And like to your point, like having the right people and that self-belief and the focus, and even the fact that you took pen to paper, like what are the pros and cons? Like I'm just going to start taking action to move me forward. Even this small thing to move me forward. Yeah, dude. I mean, you have to. And to your point, like I did that early on is I put value on comments and people that, like I look back on, I'm like, I don't know why I listened to people, or why I let those people like get to me. But yeah, man, I think the thing that really changed my life too was like having that group of people around me. So like when I was going through that time of like applying to jobs and like no money and all that, like those are the people that are like, hey, we're willing to help you out, or like, hey, if you're looking to get away as like a vacation, come stay at my apartment or whatever, right? Yeah. So yeah, man, it was like I'm grateful, and like I'm forever grateful for the people that have helped me along the way, and that's why I love like giving back and doing stuff like that too. So, heck yeah, man. Yeah. Hey, it's been a great conversation. When I want to kind of like final thoughts or wrap up with this of when somebody says Jake, like, man, this is the life that Jake lived, right? What would you hope that they remembered, or what would you hope that they would say? Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, I would hope people just say like he was a good person and made a positive impact on any organization or anything that he was involved in. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like if you're like, for me, if you're a good person, you work hard and you give back, you'll be successful at whatever you do. So for me, it's like if I can just be a good person and continue to make positive impacts on wherever I'm at, that to me, that's the legacy I want to leave. Heck yeah, man. I would say like I'll always remember you no matter what. Like you shot your shot. Right? For sure. You're that dude, man. Like you're the guy at the front of the line. You smell the gun smoke, man, and you're going to run the race, dude. Trying, man. And that's why I'm glad we've connected. And I think more than anything, I'm hoping people are taken away from not just your story, but the reality of that, like you struggle with the same things other people, like
1,000%.
we're all so similar and yet unique, but also like there's been these challenges that you've continued to have to push through. And I think the clearest thing that popped out to me is like you have people around you and you've been intentional to keep those people around you. And I think what would be great is like people to evaluate, are the people currently around me pushing me to greatness? And if they're not, how do I call them to that? Or start saying, maybe you're not the people I need to be around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are you pushing people or people pushing you, right?
Yeah. And I got a phrase that has been in my mind quite a bit is like, if you want to be uncommon, you got to stop doing what common people do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I see you doing uncommon things and also being surrounded by uncommon people. Right?
Trying to, man. Yeah. Trying.
So keep chasing it, man.
Yes,
so
sir.
I appreciate you guys jumping on the Heads or Tails podcast. Jake, how can people connect with you?
Yeah. So I'm big on LinkedIn. So like love if people want to reach out on LinkedIn. So just Jake Daugherty on LinkedIn. On X, it's _J Daugherty. And then, those are the two best ways people can find me. And it's happy to connect with anybody. Like always happy to get coffee and hang out and have conversations. So for sure.
Heck yeah, man. We'll have to do this again. Appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Appreciate the time.